IOM is working with the government of Somalia, the federal member states, the donors, and other UN partners to address the needs of Somalis in the camps by providing shelters, by providing hygiene kits, and by providing the necessary items for them to survive. We work at all levels to provide that support, to not only provide life-saving, but also the comfort that they need. So we work across the board with all the partners to make sure that happens. And that includes camp management and camp coordination to make sure that services are delivered and the quality of the services meet the standards of the international system.
We're seeing a lot of Somalis really struggling to find better living conditions, especially even within Somalia itself. How much of this would you attribute to the effects of climate change?
Climate change is having a serious impact on Somalia. Somalia is one of the least countries that emits carbon in the atmosphere, but now we're seeing it facing the brunt of the impacts. We went from 5 failed rainy seasons that induced a drought that took Somalia to the brink of famine, and 2 months later, flash floods that inundated most of the country and displaced a lot of people. What we've seen, Somalia has 3.9 million people displaced. 2.4 of that is displaced by climate-induced weather phenomenon. So we see that, and this is why Somalia now is one of the fastest urbanizing countries in Africa, because people are being pushed from their place of habitual residence into the urban centers, which doesn't necessarily have the capacity to support them.
How about, how are you doing in terms of, IOM helping resettle those Somali returnees that are coming out of Yemen, where they fled to, and others from Libya?
Right, and that's a serious concern, because just as people displace, they go from their village to anchor towns, from anchor towns to the urban centers, and when they cannot survive in these urban centers, they go on. They go to other countries, they cross the borders. A lot of them go to Yemen, and their final destination is usually Saudi Arabia. Some of them travel through Libya, final destination Europe, and they end up stranded both in Yemen and in Libya. So we've been working with the special presidential envoy to return these migrants, stranded migrants, back to Somalia and integrated them back into the country. So it requires quite a bit, quite a heavy lifting, including hiring boats, chartering flights to bring them back home.
Now, Frantz, there are reports about relocating some UN agencies to Somalia. And there are concerns here because, Somalia has not been considered a very secure country. What's your reaction to this?
Well, actually, almost all of the agencies have been relocated to Somalia, to Mogadishu. Now is a question of space. Like you said, the agencies, especially the UN agencies, require certain security standard, and without that, they would not be able to extend their footprint. But there are UN agencies that are operating across the country, in Bosaso, and Garowe, and Belatwin, but then the space is limited. But the footprint, as much as possible, and I think the government's intent is to use the local talent. And the agencies are making good use of the local talent, hiring young Somali women, young Somali men and women to do their job. But when it comes to internationals, bringing internationals in the country, naturally that's limited because of this security situation.